these guys start lobbing grenades on us. I lost a lot of good dudes that day. I lost a lot of good dudes in the first couple of days of that shit. That was the first 2 days of Fallujah. This was the real deal. And we were in the fight for our lives.
Welcome to Operation Onward. Today we've got Marine Corps veteran, Fallujah combat veteran, founder of Reunite The Fight, all-around Hollywood Marine, Mr. Scott Gatto. Welcome to the show, Scott.
Welcome. Thank you for being here.
No, I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and obviously thank you guys for bringing me on the show. I don't know how I feel about the Hollywood comment, but we'll get to that later.
Well, kind of backing up, what led you to the Marine Corps? What made that decision to join the military?
All right. Well, we're gonna do a repeat on this. So,
take two.
Yeah, just I'll go back to growing up as a kid. Like you see kids how they play today. They got electronics. They're not out in the neighborhoods. And when it was 20 degrees and it was snowing, I was calling my buddies. We were out there playing football, throwing the pigskin around in the snow, grabbing the ball and bat, running to the park to play ball, meeting at the basketball court, hustling $5 a game. It was just, that's how I grew up. It was completely built around outside with my friends, playing sports and having fun. When I got to high school, it was much of the same. I played every sport in the book, ran track, wrestled, played basketball in the same season, and then played football, obviously. And I loved every second of it. It was probably the one thing that kept me in line with my school grades as well, because you had to have good grades to get on the field. So it was probably a good thing, hand in hand, because my parents didn't tolerate bad grades. But when it got to that time where you're touring colleges, figuring your life out, where you're going to go next, what you're going to do next, and I started touring colleges. I wanted to play football in college, and I toured. So I showed up, and I was 190 pounds, 195 pounds, 5'11". And they said, yeah, we want you to be 240. And I was like, fuck. There ain't enough ice cream in this place, because it was a cafeteria. They had ice cream, and I just remember these guys just pouring bowls of ice cream. And I was just thinking it took me a lot to eat my way up to 195, 200 at one point of high school football. So to be 240, I just knew it wasn't in my cards. And military recruiters were always walking around, so I started working with the Army. And, so you see all the, be all you can be in the Army, in the commercials and the ring and tone of everything. And they hook you in with the mottos and the fancy commercials. And so in my head, I was like, yeah, I want to jump out of helicopters, shoot guns. I hunted and fished as a kid, and that's just how I grew up with my family. I had a grandmother, dubbed her Dead-Eye Coral, because she shot 3 deer on opening day one year, and not because she wanted to shoot 3 deer, but she thought the deer that was walking across the road was the same deer walking back and forth. She just shot 3 freaking deer.
Oh my gosh.
So she burned 3 tags, and it was a cool story. Because now my kids hunt, and, it's something I've been able to pass on to them. But the Army recruiter, he kind of tried to steer me into driving trucks and doing some pretty lame jobs. And I did the ASVAB, and I did the whole MEPS deal and made sure I checked out physically. And so when he didn't, bend, towards what I was leaning to want to do, he was trying to fill a quota, not trying to put somebody in to the military. And so you sit back and you listen to different people in your life, mentors, and you watch TV shows. One of the movies was Stripes with Bill Murray. That's really old. It probably gives my age away too.
Great movie.
But I kind of align with that personality in the military too. Maybe it's because I watched it too many times with my father, old Westerns and Clint Eastwood shows, John Wayne shows. But it was just that time where I knew that I was screwed if I stayed in the Army or with the Army recruiter. So one day I got a wild hair up my ass, was like, fuck it, I'm going to go down to this other recruiting office 5 miles down the way. And I walk in the door, Air Force recruiter comes out. He's probably so lucky I never knew his name, but he was way overweight and way out of military standard. And I was like, oh, hell no. I ain't joining the Air Force. And luckily for you, Nick, Coast Guard didn't even exist in that office. So. But then the Navy come out, and he had like that little condom cap on. I was like, I ain't wearing that. You know, like there's no way I'm wearing that. Army came out. I was like, just go back in the office, man. I'm done with the Army. Marine came out. And I remember his name, Gunnery Sergeant Brinker. He was Sergeant Brinker at the time, though. And he walks out of the office in his blues, and I said to myself, like literally, and I'm not joking when I say this, I could totally get laid in that uniform. But I'm 18 years old. You know, I'm playing sports, chasing girls. And, you know, everybody sees the dress blues. They're like the cream of the crop. Like nobody can deny that.
It's the best uniform in the military.
Right.
100%.
I mean, it is. So we sit down. What do you like to do? We kind of just talked about what I like to do. Chase women, play sports, travel, hunt, fish. He's like, I got a great job for you. I was like, all right, what is it? He's like, how about Marine Corps infantry? And I was like, what do they do? So he's like, what do you want to shoot? And I was like, I don't give a shit, you know? So he's like, well, we're going to put you through the ASVAB. I'm like, no, man, I don't need that. I was like, I already did all that. So he looks me up in the computer and he says, when do you want to leave? I said, I don't know, like as soon as possible. He says, how about tomorrow? I was like, well, I was kind of hoping I'd go drink a few beers with my buddies before I leave. How about next week? I said, all right, I'll leave next week. So I went down to Myrtle Beach with a bunch of 18, 19-year-old guys, beer, fake IDs.
Redneck Riviera, man.
Yeah. So, you know, the rest of the story's kind of tells itself. But I came back in one piece and did my night in the hotel, got on the bus, made my way to Parris Island, you know, to go to Marine Corps boot camp at MCRD, not San Diego. Ooh, don't want to do that. But Parris Island, Swamp Marine. And that was in 2001. But, you know, and then you go through boot camp and you get out. And I'll never forget my first day in boot camp. Well, not really first day, because 3 days you're in processing. They're giving you the paperwork. You're signing your GI Bill stuff. But we got our green hats. And there was this kid, Cooper, black kid out of Brooklyn, New York. And he had already been through boot camp for like 6 or 7 weeks, and then he had a felony on his record, so he had to go like get it expunged. I didn't know this at the time, but so they take you through the wheelhouse. You're getting your uniforms, and you're getting all your gear that you need for boot camp, and then you get a stamp kit because you got to mark it all. So we're marking our uniforms. Well, I put this stamp together, you know, so it says Gatto. And I'm like stamping it right on the back of the neck where they told me to. And it's coming out like a black blob. So I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to grab this Sharpie and I'm just going to write my name on the top of it. This kid Cooper's like, I'm going to tell on you. That's not right. I'm going to tell on you. I was like, you telling me I'll whoop your ass. That was like my personality. I mean, I was the kid who had an assault and battery charge as a 14-year-old for beating a kid up who pulled a gun out. I, you know, was a guy who beat up a security guard at a mall. My parents had a handful, right? I was a good kid, but I had a bad bone in my body from time to time. Not because I wanted to, it was just how I grew up. You know, me and my brother fought all the time, and, you know, you lace them up with the kids in the neighborhood. Nobody really gave a shit, so you throw the gloves on and go. Well, this kid went up to go knock on the hatch because that was what you did. You go pound on the hatch 3 times. Well, he didn't get 3 knocks. He only got 2 because the second one I knocked his ass out. And the drill instructors come out of the office and like, who did this? I was like, you know, this recruit. That was about as much as I knew at the time. They wore my ass out. And they took me up to the 3rd deck, and it was just like 1 on 3 for a long time. But I didn't quit. You know, I took a lick and I went back down and got back in the normal, you know, routine of things. But they would wake me up like periodically in the middle of the night, make me do push-ups, pull-ups, just test me. And it came into a point where they made me like an enforcer. So I just started like beating up the weak kids in the boot camp that they wanted to get rid of. It was actually quite entertaining. But I'll never forget, my father comes down to boot camp graduation. He says to the drill instructor, he says, "Do you mind if I talk to your drill instructor?" I didn't really want him to, but he says, "How was my kid?" Because my dad, right before I left the boot camp, showed me a letter of like one of his buddies who joined in the 80s and jumped off the rappel tower to get out of, the Marines, because he was like tortured or whatever the hell you want to call it, but he wasn't having a good time. And he kind of doubted that I would make it. And I was like, I'll be fine. But he said, "How was my son in boot camp?" And they said, "Well, he's fucking dumb, but he sure is strong." So that was kind of my MO.
So Marine infantry, you graduated boot camp, went to SOI, and I just learned something about you today. You reported to your first duty station on what date?
9/11.
On 9/11.
Wow.
9/11. Yeah, so, did the boot camp, go to school infantry for however long, 55, 58 days, something like that. And then I went home on leave for the first time for like 7 days, see the family, and, told them I'm getting stationed in Hawaii. I was like on cloud 9.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit, like these guys are going to Lejeune. I'm like, fuck, I don't want to stay here with these chiggers. And then, you guys going to Pendleton to play with tarantulas. I had no clue about centipedes yet, but I was going to Hawaii, So I get out on the plane and land. It's like midnight, Honolulu airport, get on a bus or a van, head over to the base. Some sergeant receives us, tells us like, "Yeah, you're going to come with me. Here's your room," opens a door. There's a mattress on the ground. He's like, "Sleep here, boot." Like, all right. Make sure your shit's pressed. We got 4:30 formation. All right. So I get, like camis unpacked, boots unpacked, polish them up, press my camis, lay down. It's like 2:15, and the whole fucking world erupts inside the barracks. People are like running up and down the halls like we're going to fucking war. And I was like, this is ridiculous, because you just got screwed with in boot camp for 3 months. Then you get screwed with in SOI. So I'm like, oh, this is the new guy joke. Ha ha, funny. Like,
what drill are we running now?
Yeah, right. I'm not falling for this. And you look at the world we live in now. Like, let's rewind 25 years. It's a tube TV in a rec hall with a pool table. It's the only TV inside the entire barracks area. One. There's no cell phones. There's no way to communicate. What's going on? You can't look on the internet for shit. So I just blew it off. I was like, I ain't believing this shit. I don't believe them at all. I didn't believe 9/11 happened until like 3-4 days after it happened. Because I was like, I don't believe it. There's no way planes fly into towers. Like, that's a cool video, but I ain't believing it. And that's literally, how long it went. It went like 3-4 days. We were gridlocked to the base, and I just thought it was like a new guy drill. Because you don't know really what to expect. But then when you realize what happened, I'll never forget when we found out we weren't going to be one of the first units on deck in Afghanistan, and Gunnery Sergeant Towns. He was crazy. He got kicked out because he's crazy. He didn't get kicked out. They made him retire. 22 years. Probably one of the best damn Marines I ever served underneath. He was hardcore. Big guy, too. Looked like he was a damn sergeant. He was... big black guy. Black guys got those genes where they say black don't crack. Well, he fucking looked like his ass was 25, 30 years old, ripping out of his T-shirts and shit. And anybody who knows me or knows Gunny Towns would agree and say the same. Like, this guy did not look like he was in his 40s and been in Gulf, the Gulf War and Desert Storm and shit. Like, he didn't look like that. But yeah, he picked that tube TV up. He smashed it. And I was like, damn, he's pissed. But that was the mindset. Like, this is what you train for. And that's where the mindset really started to hit me, is I was like, damn, I'm going to have to go to war. I'm 18, well, 19 really at the time. I was brand new to 19. And I didn't know my head from my ass in the Marine Corps, other than, this is your rifle. There are many like it, but this one is mine, right? Because everybody heard that shit in freaking Full Metal Jacket. So the Rifleman's Creed, that they make you, recite every night in boot camp, like that was my reality now. So what do I do? How do I get ready? And it was just, how do I always beat the guy to the left and right of me? It was always a competition. It was a competition when I was growing up, but now it's a real competition. And I knew the only way I was going to survive is if I was the one calling the shots. That's how I felt, at least. There was a lot of shots that I probably didn't call, but I feel a big part of the reason that me and some of the other guys who made it out of Fallujah in my third tour, I don't want to act like I'm like some superhuman or God, but I definitely made some good decisions at the right times.
Right.
Yeah.
How long after when you heard, obviously everyone heard the news of 9/11, did you deploy?
So we went right over to the Big Island and got right into training. They call it like all hands CAS effects, and you got jets and Cobras and mortars and your 81s, your 60 or 40 millimeter mortars, your 80 millimeter mortars, 81s, your artillery rounds. So everybody's lobbing rounds at different rates of fire, but it's all in combination. So you're learning how to adjust, how to hold position for a minute and let the rounds impact targets and then move forward. These are live rounds. This is what you're training to do. And then we deployed in basically January. It was like right at the end of December of 2001. And, it wasn't the deployment that we had anticipated or expected. You never really know what to expect when you go overseas and like when your feet touch foreign soil. But, that deployment lasted like 9 or 10 months. Then we came back. We were on like a 7 rotation, and it was supposed to be like 14 off, 7 on. But we went over for 8, 9 months. In our area of operation, we would leave Hawaii, go to Okinawa, pick up the ship or pick up whatever boat we were going to get on, and then set sail to wherever AO they wanted us to go on. And so after we left on the first deployment, come home, and second deployment, it was like really short after. It was like 5 months. We had like a 5-month break. So, you come back, dropped our packs for maybe a month, and then we got right back into the workout. And really, it was just because we had Afghanistan going, but then we also had Iraq going when the invasion took place.
Yeah.
So you're spread real thin. They didn't have enough Marines, enough soldiers inside of the military to facilitate all the duties that needed to be done. And so when a lot of these people who joined later on, they were on scheduled rotations. Like my first 4 years, it was almost all spent overseas in a foreign country, dealing with foreign, cultures and foreign nationals and different people that don't speak your language, and you got to like figure it out. But I know that, we probably want to get into the Fallujah thing. So do you want to ask any other questions before we get into that?
Yeah.
No, I wanted to. So on your third deployment is when you fought in the Battle of Fallujah, and going into that deployment, did your company know where you were going, and did you know anything about Fallujah, or was it you get there and this is the mission?
That's a really good question. I'll tell you exactly how it happened. So I come back from the second deployment. And like I was telling you, there was like this little Filipino security deal. There was a president of the Philippines, and they were rotating our units over there to guard her, and like the 2002-3 time frame. And you had the Abu Sayyaf over there, so there was terrorism and whatnot, but nothing like what we were going to experience in Fallujah. But we came back from the second tour. I was home 15 days, 16 days. We went on leave. And they said, this is it. That's all you're getting, 15 days. So we come back. First field op. We're going like full CAS effects. And I was like, I knew something was up. Something's off here. This is not how we do business. You come back, you like hang out.
Get some downtime.
Yeah, you hang in the garrison, you snap on the barrel, you go to the range and pop a couple rounds. You don't go on a full live fire CAS effects. So it's like day 2 or 3, And they're like, hey, we got some good news and we got some bad news. So, of course, we're all like, well, what's the fucking good news? Well, good news is you're going to get a 96 when we get back from this. Like, sweet. What's the bad news? Well, 160 of you are deploying and you're leaving in 3 months. So now I'm like, damn, oh, it ain't gonna be me. You know, I've already done a couple tours. I'm good. And they wrote, like, break out the scroll, you know, it's like, phew, rolls out this freaking scroll of paper and hit the alphabet and the A's, and the names that are coming off the list are guys that I joined with, and I'm like, fuck. So of course they get to the G's and I hear I already knew it was coming. Well, what's going on? Well, you guys are going over to 1-3. You're leaving 3rd Battalion, 3rd Marines, and you're going with 1st Battalion, 3rd Marines, and I don't know where the fuck you guys are going, but you're going to do some big shit. All right. So I remember I left, you know, that field op. We went back to the rear, turned in all my gear, went on the 96, picked up with the next battalion like the next week, and they were like, you're going to squad leader school. All right. So I went to squad leader school for 6 weeks, and it was just nonstop living in the field. Get out of squad leader school, well, you got 4 weeks, and it was like nothing but range time for 4 weeks. We got on the plane, go over to Okinawa, did the whole MUSOC qual. I was always helo company, so it was always fast roping, rappelling, you know, all that stuff, day, night, doesn't matter. And we get on the boat, sail over to the Middle East, Straits of Hormuz and Malacca, touchdown in Udari in Kuwait, like flew in. Still had no idea. Stars and stripes, it's like nothing but what happened with Vigilant Resolve in April and May with Fallujah. And I'm thinking like, man, all the places I don't want to go, it's that fucking place. I don't want to go to Grenade Alley. And we went on this field op in, it wasn't field op, it was an actual live combat mission. Because when we got into, I guess I'll rewind, we crossed over the border in August into Iraq. And this is like Bush's second term. He's going to get reelected, right? So we know the elections are right around the corner. Well, we got there and we knew, you know, like one night I got a little tap on the shoulder. Hey, wake up. Want good news or bad news? What's the good news? We know where the fuck we're going. Well, what's the bad news? We're going to Fallujah. And from what we understand, we're taking that city down and it's going to be like history book shit. So when we telling the guys? Well, we'll tell them in the morning. Okay. So I remember the next day I told the guys, and they weren't so fan-friendly about the news, but I told them all, you know, make a phone call home because it doesn't sound like it's going to be good. And I remember I called home, and I just told my mom, like, hey, love you. You know, everything's good. You just act like nothing's wrong. Then you lace your boots up, pack your shit, and you go. So we get over into theater very first night. We land at Takaitam, and we slept, woke up, jumped in some Iraqi's fucking box truck and went over to a chow hall the next day. Got another helicopter that night, flew into Fallujah. We're on deck less than 5 minutes. An artillery attack happened. Like 14 guys lost limbs and had amputations. Nobody died. But we took some casualties. So we were in like tent city. We had no like real home. There was no fortified buildings. It was just like, here, land your shit. And you'd be sleeping in the bed at night, you know, piece of plywood, sleeping bag. At least you're off the deck. And you just hear the whistling. Mortar rounds coming in, run to the bunkers. And that lasted for a couple days. And we sandbagged the shit out of the tents. And then we went and took over one of Saddam's old training camps and turned it into Camp Owens, which was right outside of Camp Fallujah. And so anybody who would like stomp through Camp Owens after we did, like, you're welcome, because we built that shit. But we got into this point where we went into Zidon, and that was right around where like Abu Ghraib was at. You know, it's the whole facade about what happened to the prisoners there and the army and how they treated people. And so we go into Zidon. It's like farm country. They drop us off in 7 tons. I really don't know what the hell the mission really even was, but we were going to go find bad guys. There was a few, you know, but we were there for 3 days, got mortared every single frickin' 3-4 hours, and ran out of water, had no food, had no comms. By the time we got picked up, you know, I mean, like we were cracking IVs in 130-degree weather. Few engagements, not many, but a few engagements that we got into out there. But we were cracking IVs open. I mean, a lot of heat stroke, a lot of heat casualties, dragging guys through the sand and the mud at that point. But we were literally like taking shirts, throwing them over the canteen with an iodine tablet. Sheep are shitting in it, laying in it, and that's how you're getting your water to stay alive. We got on a 7-ton when we were rolling out of this place finally, when they got their heads out of their ass to get us out of there. And I mean, I'm talking like air traffic control or, you know, forward observers, and like they couldn't even keep up. They were dying. You know, it was excruciating heat. We got in the 7 tons, we're rolling out. We get hit with a V-bid, and like 2 vehicles behind ours, and they had napalm made out of styrofoam and laundry detergent. So, you know, that whole song and ditty, napalm sticks to kids. Well, this fucking shit you know, it stuck to them. And, you know, when you're sitting there watching someone's skin melt off their face and there ain't shit you can do about it, it like changes your life forever. Because like here's somebody that you actually love and care about, that you know, you went to boot camp with, and as their face is melting off, their fucking rounds, they're blowing their heads off because they're cooking off on them. And this was just the prelude to what we were getting ready to go into to Fallujah. So watching Nick Berg get beheaded, seeing my buddies melt in front of my face, I was pretty pissed off. I really didn't give a fuck what happened. And when they said on November 7th, President Bush comes down, or really Donald Rumsfeld, and says, like final counts came in from Florida. Bush has got the nod. He's president. That's why they didn't send us in September, because they wanted him to get reelected. And so he gets reelected, and it was instantaneous. Go draw your shit. So you go to the field, you're used to like packing a bunch of stuff, comfort items. The only comfort item I had in my pack was a poncho, and it was to block me from a sandstorm and drag it, you know, a fellow Marine to safety if needed. But the rest of my pack was literally ammunition, because they said, you're taking 7 days of ammo. We're not going to be able to resupply you. When we get in there, it's a penetration attack. You're going to grab your first objective, grab a foothold, make sure you got all your guys. Second objective, we had these mosques that we were going to take out. Third objective, get to the center of the city, and then back clear. How long is Fallujah supposed to take? 6-7 days, tops. November 8th, 2004. Get in tracks. And I remember they had the old saying, like, you know, red at night, sailor's delight. The reddest fucking sky I ever seen in my life. And I've seen a lot of sunsets in a lot of different places of the world. And I remember, you know, thinking to myself, like, how this was going to go down. But we get in the tracks, get out to the north end of the city. That whole night, couldn't sleep. Listen to them just bomb the shit out of Fallujah. C-130 gunships, F-18s, A-10s, just annihilating the city, prepping it. You know, good question was like how much it weighed. Like, I mean, we were 100 pounds plus of just ammo. You know, you were spread loading. I wasn't just carrying my load. I was carrying the machine gunner's load, the extra mortar rounds, the small rocket rounds. Like, it was 7 days of ammo for everybody, squad and attachments. So we get into Amtracs. We're 30, maybe 40 deep in an Amtrak. You're supposed to have like 15, 20.
Yeah.
So we're like sitting on top of each other. We get to the north end of the city, outside of the Cloverleaf. If you've been to Fallujah, you know where the Cloverleaf's at, where the highway comes to an absolute clover. A lot of IEDs, a lot of shit goes on there. We did a bunch of feint attacks prior to it just to confuse the enemy, but there was like a whole schematic. We knew we were all going to be launching our attack from the north. 3-5, 3-1, 1-3, and 1-8. And that was the 4 Marine battalions. And 3-5 had a objective of taking over the hospital on the other side of the Euphrates. And once they initiated the attack on the hospital at dusk, that's when we loaded the tracks and we started rolling into the city. And so we're rolling into the city, and I mean, they're blazing rounds, throwing RPGs at us. I mean, shit's flying over your head. And I remember right before I got in that Amtrak, I said a good prayer, and I had zero expectation of surviving. Zero. None. And like you see Save It Private Ryan, and I tell people the difference between Fallujah and that was just water. Just water. I mean, they knew where we were coming from. They had watched us all day. We sat out there for 16, 18 hours before we rolled in. They knew exactly what we were going to do and how we were going to do it. So there was no secrecy to what was about to happen. And as we rolled in, we were blowing a Miklik charge. And so what a Miklik charge would do is you detonate this big explosive. It vibrates the earth. Any of the implanted IEDs or landmines would just automatically get set off. And so we blew the Miklik. We rolled through the Miklik charge. The world's on fire. Bullets are dinging off the track. Guys are pissing off the top because they, can't hold it anymore. And the track in front of us gets blown up. And I think, Nicola, you met Johnston. Mm-hmm. So Johnston was in this track, and that's when Johnston lost his arm and leg. A couple other guys got wounded as well. But that was like, oh, shit. So we had to get out, do some life-saving measures. Johnston gets medevaced out. Gallup gets medevaced out. Potter gets medevaced out. The remainders, spread load into my track and another track. So now we're like 50 deep in a tram track. I mean, like literally the term nut to butt doesn't even have a say-so in my life. Like this was like crammed in like sardines in a can. And we get to the north end of the city and we just shut the tracks off. And they said, don't move. We're not getting out. So we sat there sitting on top of each other for like 2 fucking hours. Confusing them because we did so many feint attacks and we would hit them and then we'd pull out and then we'd leave. So we were like in hopes that they would leave, but we also dropped white phosphorus. So all the people in those history books and all the bullshit, they say we didn't do it, we fucking did it. And that was another reason we didn't just run right into the city, guns a-blazing.
Right.
You can't inhale that shit. So the ramp goes down. It's foggy. You get out. It's dark as shit. There's no stars in the sky. There's no illumination. You can't see shit out of your MBGs. We know first objective is to gain a foothold. So we start walking, and I got guys who are like my point men, and they don't even want to walk. You could see the hesitation, like, fuck that. You go first. So my first team leader, Nathan Moore, and myself, we take point. Like, fuck it, we got to go. So we make our way towards this, the north end of the city. We walk past a D9 bulldozer flipped upside down in the mud, and shit's steaming. We have no radio comms, right? Surprise. We're rigging up a charge. We're at like one of the first houses at the north end of the city of Fallujah. We're in the industrial sector, but the north is still more residential. Rig up a charge. We have no clue how much C4 we should really be putting on shit at this point. This was all like trial and error, so we put like a half a stick on a door. So makes a really big boom.
I was going to say, big hole.
Yeah. As we're rigging this charge up, I hear like, some Arabic voices, language. They're coming up the north end of the city. They have no clue they know we're coming maybe, but they have no clue we're like right on their ass. So I put 2 machine gunners down in crossfires. And I tell them, I'm like, as soon as they get to that street, there's a side street kind of intersecting, the block that we were on. I said, if they get to that point before we blow this door, light them up. So we rig the charge up, pop the time fuse, 10 seconds, get down to like 3, 2, door blows, machine guns go off, and it's fucking on. And the whole city lights up like a Pink Floyd laser light show, and tracer rounds are in the sky, pink, red, yellow, and it's absolute fucking insanity. You don't know who's shooting at who, what's shooting at what. You can't contact anybody in your platoon or in your company because radios don't work. And we get in this house, and we get to the rooftop, and there was like maybe a 2-foot brick wall or something. I'm like laying down, sliding on my back, trying to get a visual of like where the fuck I'm at and understand from the map standpoint like where I need to go from here to get to the next objective. And I come back down to the house, and I'm just like sitting next to the lieutenant laughing. He's like, what the fuck are you laughing at? I was like, this shit's crazy. Like, we literally just ran down a street full of bullets and bad guys, and nobody got hurt. Like, it was just surreal to me. So we leave this house like on a whim because we know we have to go. Like, I don't want to run out of this house because I know it's bad news, but we got to make it towards the center of the city because we're on like a timeline, a time frame, and it's like they wanted us penetrated 8 hours to the center. And this is like 11 o'clock on the 8th of November when we entered, maybe 10 o'clock. And it was like 2 o'clock in the morning when we got to the next standpoint. We hit this mosque. They're loaded with insurgents inside of this mosque near Dave's Field. And we're in a house, posted up, gathering like ammo counts, doing wounded reports, wounded in action reports, sending sit reps. And obviously there was like Geneva Convention, can't attack a mosque till you're fired upon. Well, they've already fired upon us. Now we're just trying to like get coordinated. So sun's coming up. Corpsman, Doc House, he's sleeping. And I'm like, hey, Doc, wake up. As the sun comes up, I realize I'm in a house with like 300 fucking 155 rounds. And that's what he was using as a pillow, was a 155 round. He didn't even know it. That's how dark it was. MBGs didn't work. It sounds crazy to even think that that would happen, or you couldn't like depict or realize like what was going on. But when you know you need to get an hour of rest or a half hour rest or shut your eyes, like you just do it. And as that sun came up and we attacked that mosque and we took over that objective, and Jahibi, who was Arkawi's right-hand man, was in that mosque. So we killed Jahibi that day. And this is the 9th of November. And so from that standpoint, we made our way to the center of the city. I got into Dave's Field, and we posted up again in a position. The whole company did, Charlie Company 1-3. We posted up right on the northeast end of Dave's Field. And, there's a lot of close calls. There was a moment where I opened up a door. As soon as I open up the door, the light bulb above my head blows up. sniper round, right, right past my brain, maybe 3-4 inches away. You get out onto a rooftop, you get into an engagement, you run to an abandoned building, you're getting all your guys in. I mean, and I was one of those Marines who's always lead by example, lead from the front. So I was constantly and consistently always in harm's way. Not that any of these guys weren't, but you set that precedence, you set the tone, and if you want them to be badasses, then you got to be a badass yourself. And just because, I'm saying this doesn't mean I wasn't fucking scared. Doesn't mean I wasn't worried. Doesn't mean that I didn't wonder what the hell was going to happen next. It was just one of those, this shit has to get done, and this is how you do it. So we sleep. We didn't sleep, but we get in this house for the night, and we hear all this tinkering going on next door to us. So the sun comes up on the 10th of November, and snipers on us hard. I just took over watch onto the rooftop, and I mean, rounds are like inches away from Marines, my Marines. So I'm calling down to the lieutenant on the radio, and I'm like, hey, I've got a location on this sniper, but I can't get a clean shot from here. But if I get in the house next door to me, I think I can fucking take him out. All right, go do it. So I grabbed me, take 2 fire teams, didn't take a full squad. I was like, we're going to clear one house. It's right next door. 2 fire teams. We'll get a position, take out the sniper, move on with the rest of the day. We get in this house. I didn't take any extra ammo. I had just the flak, sappy plates, 10 mags, couple grenades. Basic setup for any fucking grunt that was running around the city at that point. We jumped the back wall because the front door was like blockaded with furniture. So we jumped the back courtyard wall. We get in. We go up the stairwell. As soon as first Marine turns the corner, there's Lance Corporal Pickering. And people who met Gonzo, right? You met Gonzo. Well, did you meet Gonzo?
I think so.
So you met Gonzo. So where I was at in the stack, like I was always pushing myself in front. Pickering was like a protege of mine. He was like a 19-year-old version of me, and I was only 22 at the time. And so Gonzo kind of like put his hand on my chest, and he was like, hey, you're the fucking squad leader. You're supposed to be in the middle. All right, Gonzo, go ahead. Pickering gets killed as soon as he turns the corner. As soon as he button hooks the stairwell, machine gun bunkers right behind us, opens up. But we don't even know if Pickering's dead. Gonzo gets hit. He gets shot off the stairs. The rest of us kind of like get thrown off the stairs from Gonzo's momentum. And these guys start lobbing grenades on us. So now we're in this fucking fight for our lives. Front door's barricaded. The back courtyard wall is 8 feet tall. I got 1 dead, 2 wounded within a matter of fucking 10 seconds. And we're limited on ammo. And these guys got 10, 15 dudes raining fucking Hail Marys on us. So it's like, all right, what do I do from here? I get on the radio calling the sit rep. I'm announcing like kill numbers. But I haven't missed any in action at the time because I don't know Pickering's dead. But I know I'm going to stay in this house until I fucking find out. And then I know I got Gonzo and Darlington who are both wounded. Darlington was shot twice. Gonzo was shot 3 times technically, but 2 bullets definitely landed, impacted hard. Bunch of shrapnel wounds. An IED was buried in the floor of the house. And as we were dragging Gonzo back, blew up, sent us flying. He took a bunch of shrapnel in his legs and feet. So he's in really rough shape. I didn't think Gonzo was going to survive, quite honestly. But now we're trying to get back up this stairwell time and time again to get to Pickering's body, or at least figure out what the hell is going on. And so about 20 minutes passes. I'm calling for support, calling for help, calling for ammo. I got guys literally right next door to me. And I'm yelling at another squad leader through my little, personal radio, PRR, Navy SOCOM mic type setup. I'm telling them to shoot an AT-4. I was like, shoot an AT-4 in the northwest corner of the building. Like, just fucking shoot it in the building. I don't care. At this point, I don't give a shit. Give me a 3-second countdown. I'll plug my ears and take my chances. So he's like, no, I ain't doing it. And I mean, if he would have did it, he would have definitely saved a few lives, probably a few limbs that day. And I ain't going to say his name, but I still don't talk to him till this day. We lost a lot of dudes. And another guy, another corpsman come up, Doc Woods. He was with another squad. They were positioning themselves to come support us. As soon as they ran up, Doc Woods got shot in the head. And I mean, I remember going up to the courtyard wall to talk to Willis, this other squad leader. And I told him, I was like, you need to get the fuck out of this area. There's like 10 guys above us. Machine gun bunker up here. As soon as I said that, Doc Woods gets shot, killed. They drag him out. It's me and 4 others. We're still fighting. Still got wounded. Still got guys killed. Nobody's coming to save our asses. Another 10 minutes so passes. And I mean, I'm down to like 1 magazine. And I'm like, said the Our Father, this is how it's going to end. Like, we watch a movie like Lone Survivor, and you watch the end, how he gets on the radio, like, this is it. Like, I'm not leaving them. If this is how it's meant to be, this is how it's fucking meant to be. And I hear this chug along of like a Amtrak or a tank of some sort. And it's a big-ass D9 bulldozer. And as this D9 bulldozer comes in, Kane and a couple other Marines that were in my platoon, different squad, they jumped the wall, 4 of them, Gray, Kane, Morton, and Hernan. And so now we got a little bit of ammo, we got some momentum. And at this point, I mean, Ramos has already been shot, Gonzo's been shot, Darlington's been shot, Pickering's dead, Doc Woods is dead. I don't know how many of these guys we've killed already at this point, but Kane gets in there and starts just laying down suppressive fire. He's got a saw, he's chicken winged the saw, big open area inside of a house, and he just starts laying down suppressive fire to keep the enemy at bay. So the D9 bulldozer pulls down, and I start shooting at the door of the D9 bulldozer. Couldn't get his attention, yelling, screaming. So I shoot. He's got up armor. So on the inside, it probably sounded like a fucking doorbell, like ding, 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 ding. And he looks outside, and we wave him down. And I'm like telling him to crash his fucking vehicle into the front of the building so I can medevac these guys. So he lifts that shovel up, and he crashes it in the front end of the building. The whole building comes down on top of us. So now, the 8-9 fuckers that were on top of us, now they're like...
Sitting in your lap.
Sitting in our lap. Kane's buried in a pile of rubble. Gonzo's buried in a pile of rubble. And there's like 5 of us and 9 of them. And you can imagine how this fucking played out. But we didn't lose any more Marines that day. We get Gonzo. Well, Gonzo, when I threw him over my shoulder and we were running out, there was one guy that was still alive. He was up top, and I didn't kill him. But, one of the other Marines in there did. And I'm running Gonzo out to the track. And Gonzo looks at the first sergeant. The first sergeant, he's sitting there with his face, like jaw drop, like, holy shit. Can't believe this is happening. And Gonzo looks at him. Says, First Sergeant, it's a Marine Corps birthday. I want my fucking 2 beers, bitch. He says, give me my fucking 2 beers, bitch. First Sergeant kind of like gets a smile on his face a little bit, like, all right, he's got to be all right if he's asking for fucking beer on the Marine Corps birthday, right? So I throw Gonzo in this track, gave him a kiss on his forehead, said, look, man, I love you. You're the fucking man. I'll see you on the other side. I had no clue he'd even make it. He'd bled for a while, good 40, 45 minutes. So I go back and get Kane. I go to pick Kane up, more unburied Kane out of the rubble with Hernan. And I had more in Hernan post-up security. I grabbed Kane, grab his leg. It was like Jello. And then, Kane came on this trip with Reunite the Fight, and we were talking, and he thought he had morphine. He's like, yeah, I don't know why the fuck it was so painful. I had morphine. I was like, you didn't have no morphine, dude. He's like, yeah, I did. I'm like, no, you didn't. Your fucking femur was smashed. We couldn't give you morphine. He's like, well, that explains a lot, 20 years later, why it hurt so bad. But so we get Kane out of there, but it was like Jello, man. I remember seeing his face, pain, agony, throw him on the track. And, like all that smoke settles. All these guys are dead. I had this guy, Al Klein. He was a Roseville, Michigan native. And his MO was like smoking cigarettes, drinking coffee. He was 34 years old, grumpy-ass old man. He was in my squad. And if he didn't take a shit in the morning, like his whole day was ruined. Like this is just how this dude operated. So when the D9 pulled into that building and pulled back an insurgent on the shovel, smashed him. Klein went up to this guy, patted him down, found a pack of smokes, took out a cigarette, lit one up over this dead motherfucker's body, and smoke him if you got him. Smoking lamp is lit. And you continue on doing what you're doing. And this is 2 days into my fucking story of 93 days of hell. And I lost a lot of good dudes that day. I lost a lot of good dudes in the first couple of days of that shit. And you get combat replacements, guys you don't even know what they're doing, what to expect. And so you look at like shows like The Pacific or Band of Brothers. I mean, this was the real deal. And we were in the fight for our lives. And these guys wanted us dead. And I mean, we fought the Chechens, the Jordanians, Syrians. It wasn't just fucking Iraq. Iranians were running weapons. And you could, after a while, you start to know, like, okay, this guy, because of his skin tone's Jordanian, and you just know. I mean, when you see a redheaded white guy running through a field, and you're like, what fucking crazy-ass Marine is that? It's Chechnyan, So a lot of crazy shit happened. I mean, I could go on and on and on about stories that happened, good times, funny times, bad times, but that was the first 2 days of Fallujah. 93 days later, 93 lives lost, and a shit ton more wounded. You get out of that, and you get a follow-on mission to go do the first ever election security. And during that time frame, on the 26th of January in 2005, you get on birds to fly up to the north, and then one of the birds crashes, killed 31, 27 of them were ours. And then they send our guys back through the wreckage, mile-long wreckage, to go clean up fucking body parts. Find dog tags, arms and legs, disintegrated, send them home to their families. And then you come back. And your feet hit the fucking soil. And that's when it hits. That's when it hits, and you're like, what the fuck just happened in my life? And it doesn't even make sense while you're there. While you're there, you're just like, you wake up, you grab your gun, you step over a dead body, you step over your dead brother, you don't give a shit. Mission accomplished, man. That's the way they build you, that's the way they breed you, that's the way they train you, that's just how the shit rolls. And then you get home. And the first thing they tell you is, don't tell them anything happened.